Alrighty, this is our first take. Welcome to Wu UW, and today we are joined by Professor Au here in the business school. Professor O. I'm sorry about that.
That's
Professor
okay.
O. All right. Do you want to do a quick introduction about yourself, Professor O, for those who don't know you?
Yeah. Sure. I usually just go by Shaosong.
Okay.
Shaosong Ou is my name. I teach at the Foster School of Business. I teach Introduction to Information System class to undergrads.
Mm-hmm.
I teach data analysis, statistics, machine learning to our graduate students.
Oh.
I advise student clubs. I lead a study abroad program. Have been with the university for 15 years. Yeah, have taught almost 10,000 students.
Whoa. Yeah, thank you for your service, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Of course, my pleasure.
Definitely. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to dive right into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess as you would talk about a little bit about yourself, you're really involved on campus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that part of it just comes because you're a business prof, but why did you pick business when you were studying undergrad and stuff? Was there a reason?
Good question. When I was an undergrad student, I never know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think only gradually realized where my passion really was until when I was a master's student.
Mm-hmm.
I did my econ as an undergrad, and there was a university all the way back in China. After that, I applied to be a grad student coming here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was first enrolled in the master program at University of Illinois in Chicago, and I was also econ. And as I get deeper and deeper into econ, I realize it's a lot of math. It's a little different from my thought. So I like it, but I'm not crazy about it. So I was looking around, looking for an area that I'm really excited and passionate about. And I guess that's when I realized I really like technology topics, but I don't want very technical side of technology. I want the application side of technology. So I was looking around, what would be an area that I can study technology, but I study the application side of technology. So I look around. Information systems seems to be a very good area. It was pretty new area back then. That was late 90s. And so I took a lot of tech classes. I get a good idea about the field, and then eventually I pick information system to be my PhD career. That's when I decided to study information system. So that's how everything got started.
Yeah.
And after I got my PhD degree in information systems, then the logical choice would be, to be in the academia.
Yeah.
And then here I am.
Here you are, yeah. 10 years later, eh?
Yeah.
Man. So I guess talk a little bit about dive into your research a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you have a fondness for open source projects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very specific topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you land on that idea? Just join into thinking about the application of open source, what motivates people and stuff.
You know what? That's a good question. When I started doing research in open source, I actually didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
My advisor back then, I was working with a professor at USC back then, and he's looking at a number of different research projects, and one of them happens to be open source. And he said, you know what, I'm working with a number of students, and then, these topics are already taken, Shaosong, so why don't you look into this?
Ah.
So that's how, I got everything started. I was assigned a topic. But once I looked into that, I think it's a fascinating field.
Yeah.
And this was back in, late 90s. And again, open source was getting more and more popular, getting a lot of people attention, but wasn't very well extensively studied.
Yeah.
And me and my advisor were actually probably the first people in the field that put a systematic study or framework in the area. So we look into why do people do open source project, right? If you think about it, spend hours and hours looking at your screen and coding, but not getting paid.
Yeah.
And then we say, what are their motivation? And, we look into literature, we interview people, we did a survey a lot of people in the community and asked them, why did you participate in this? Are you getting paid or not?
Yeah.
Directly or indirectly? If you're not getting paid, what is your motivation and so on? So we had our results analyzed and published, which happened to be one of the very first papers to kind of look into open source software community participants' motivation. Like, why do you devote your time and effort in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was how it all got started.
Kind of by chance, right?
Got assigned the topic.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So I think like it is definitely a very prevalent field even today, right? A lot of the things like I think there are like talks about like pushing to make ChatGPT open source and stuff like that. And I think like I read a little bit into it, right? The 3 paper that you have on your website, and I think a big takeaway when I was reading through is that it seems like as altruistic as open source sounds, there seems to be like still external factors that's contributing to it, right? And like a big part that surprised me, at least when I was reading it, is that even though it's an open source project, you assume everybody that's working on it is like not getting paid. A big chunk of the developers are actually getting paid by the company to work on the open source projects themselves, right? And I was like kind of like wondering, like, did you find the results shocking when you first discovered it? Like, what were your thought processes and stuff?
Quite surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the way that we look at a particular study to see if it is groundbreaking, eye-opening, is to see whether the findings are surprising a lot. Was there like a wow factor? Was it like, oh,
yeah.
And when we reveal and when we figure out, a lot of people are getting paid, a lot of people actually are not, and then they participate in a way a little different from what we thought. And we say, yeah, well, that's a pretty interesting finding.
Yeah.
We didn't expect that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess like maybe just me while I was looking into it, right? I was thinking about it. Like, I think one of the paper mentioned that one of the factors is that besides just like people being offered money, there's also part of like people who are not willing to take the money when they're offered, right? So like some of the contributors was like, I don't want this money. I just want to contribute for like the altruism aspect or like the personal idea aspect. I guess like, did you ever like look at that and think, what makes those kind of people different? Like, what was their motivation? Like, why is it that way? Why are they that way? Yeah.
Good question. So following up on what you just mentioned, we look into the literature from behavioral science, from human psychology, and one of the literature we look into is altruism, right? So, there's an altruistic, intrinsic motivation kind of a thing that you wanted to do something, you enjoy doing something, so you just do it. But one of the, I guess, findings or long line of literature they have studied is if you make this activity a paid activity, like if you reward that, then this intrinsic motivation actually goes away. Like, if you say, oh, I, play piano a lot because I really enjoy playing piano. And so one of the experiment was, okay, have somebody come to the bar and play piano for free for a long time, but you start gradually paying him money. For tonight, used to be free, but tonight we'll pay you, I don't know, $50. Tomorrow we'll pay you $50, and so on and so forth. And one day, if you take away the pay, he no longer comes.
Interesting.
So that's why this intrinsic motivation will be crowded out by extrinsic awards. So going back to your question, we definitely did want to look deeper, but I think for various reasons, we either could not locate the people who answer in a specific way from the survey because it's all anonymous. Or maybe we could, but we couldn't do it at the scale that make the study publishable. So we never actually did. I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't remember, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Must be something about that.
2002, I think the paper was when it was published. That's very interesting, So I also one other connection I kind of made was that this kind of reminds me of the classroom, bringing it back to the UW setting, right? Where I feel like the intrinsic value that comes along with studying and learning, and then the extrinsic value that is put on students grades and then the promise of graduation and stuff. I don't know, did you ever thought about the connection, coordination between those two kind of things?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We always try to find the perfect model where students will learn and improve on their own. But in reality, we never have the perfect model. Probably that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So we settle for the best we can do, right? So going back to your point, there are a lot of areas we can improve with the existing education model. But if you ask idealists, they say, I wish it could be this way, it could be that way. I wish it shouldn't be this way that it is.
Yeah.
In reality, though, many of them are either not feasible or out of reach. So we have to settle for what do we have now, which is give the student the environment for them to learn. The best way to learn is, they are really motivated and interested and excited about it. And they try their best. Everybody does. So we don't even have to evaluate them. Because whatever they achieve is the best of their ability. But in reality, we still need some kind of a mechanism to either quantify, to differentiate the students, the amount of learning, the amount of assimilation they have, and so on. So we ended up with the system that we have with, tests, quizzes. I understand that, might not be the perfect way in the ideal world. But what's the alternative? We don't have a better one.
That is true.
I mean, if there is one, we're more than happy to try.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's a very interesting topic. I think education is something that I used to spend a lot of time on thinking about, but it seems just like it is what it is as current state, and it's hard to change because it's so rooted. And besides that, it's the change that it requires, it seems to be so fundamental, and so it seems so hard to hard to incrementally push forward. But
and that applies to anything, right? If you look at the entire society, we have what we have because of centuries of evolution and development, adaptation. So if you say, I'm going to revolutionize that, that takes a lot of work and also an opportunity, incredible opportunity. But having said that, we all know that everything is evolving, especially with the challenge and opportunity provided by technology.
Definitely,
even in education field, right? So looking around ChatGPT, AI stuff is reshaping people's belief about education, about evaluation on a daily basis as we speak. So I don't think anyone in the world has the answer yet. But part of the way we find out the answer is watch and learn, adapt and think, and sort of experience.
Go forward with it. And I think that's a good segment into one of the follow-up questions to that is where do you think ChatGPT is going to take education and stuff? So I think I remember talking to a previous professor here who's a PhD candidate in the French department, and he argued for the argument of the death of university almost, especially after COVID with the idea of Zoom. You don't have to be in a classroom to learn, and online schooling, and now ChatGPT being sometimes even a better tutor than some of the tutors out there. What are your thoughts about this going forward, and where do you think this is going to go?
I think it's going to be playing an even bigger role than what it does today, despite some people's resistance and hesitation about it. It's just, I believe, the way or the direction the world is heading towards. You can fight it, but in the end, probably it's like a small paddle in a bigger tsunami. Right? So I believe ChatGPT will be much more widely used in education, well, not just in education, every field. Teachers and students would just have to learn to adapt to this new world. It's going to be a very, very different world. Think about evaluation. If in the presence of technology in our education system, if there is this wonderful technology can do most of the stuff that you ask students to do, right? As a teacher, you're going to have to rethink about redesigning your curriculum. At the fundamental level, you really have to think, what is the difference between a machine and a person? What is the difference between artificial intelligence and real intelligence? And everything we can do using artificial intelligence, then in the future will probably be done using artificial intelligence. But there are things only real intelligence, human intelligence can do. So as an educator and teacher, and we're going to train students that will really, really excel in those real intelligence field. And our evaluation will be based on what a human can do that ChatGPT cannot. And, I'm still thinking, I'm always, thinking nowadays, what would be a good example? I don't have a good answer as of now, but I think it takes many, many bright minds of the world to think and figure it out. And I'm sure there will be a solution and answer in the future, very near future.
Yeah. Okay. So just to clarify, right, when you say like you don't have an example, do you mean like an example of a field that only humans can do that ChatGPT cannot, or is it like an example of?
Yeah, example like that.
Okay.
So I know a lot of example human can do better.
Yeah.
But how do you evaluate that in an education setting? What is the way that you can assess students' ability in that particular field? So one of the ideas is humans are really good in abstract thinking, in concepts that are not very concrete, like emotion concept, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to give you a picture and I say, what emotion does this picture elicit out of you? So people will be able to tell, like it's a beach, blue sky, white sand beach, palm tree. They will be able to tell right away. I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm happy. But it will take artificial intelligence a lot of work to figure out this particular emotion. I mean, what does this emotion mean anyways? So I'm thinking, so as students, college students in the new generation, if there are a lot of things that ChatGPT already can do, big data can do, algorithm can do. What is it that they can't, but I can? And so that I can bring to the table. So one of those things. But then how do you evaluate those things? What is the value added in communication, in business, in data science, right? Knowing emotion. How does it help managing a company? How does it help, say, building better engineering artifacts? These are the things we have to think.
I see.
Yeah.
Actually, while you were speaking about that fact, right, I think a big part, I was thinking about this aspect that I think humans will definitely, at the current state, be a lot better than like any artificial intelligence is definitely, like you said, emotion, right? I think that comes back to like empathy as well, especially like if you were to put that in the business sense or like in the technology sense, it's going to be the empathy for the users and making sure understanding what a user need and then like putting yourself in their shoes, doing like case designs and like understanding what the users want. And then that is something you can bring to a table that the AI cannot. AI can code the thing up, but AI don't know what to code. I think as a developer, maybe you can like put more empathy into it. And I think like maybe as a manager, you can put more empathy into like, I don't know, managing and like communicating with the needs of the other party and understanding what their needs really are, and then like targeting those instead of like, because I think like AI cannot do that at the current stage, right?
Welfare of your employees, welfare of your team, morale, that kind of thing.
Those are the things that I think AI cannot do yet. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the thought on that topic.
Can I ask you questions?
Of course, yeah.
I'm interested in, like you, like if you can tell me briefly, how did you pick CS? What is your background?
Okay.
And where are you from?
Okay, yeah, that's a Uno reverse. I didn't expect that coming out of you. I think I'll do a little introduction. So my name is Wu, and I am from Xi'an, China originally, actually. And then I moved to the U.S. when I was 13 and a half to Woodinville, Washington, a little small town north of Seattle, and moved to Olympia with my family. And then now I came to UW for college. And then originally when I first came to UW, I wanted to major in statistics and international studies, actually.
Okay.
I wanted to do double major. And then my mother was really against it because like she didn't really see like a future for that. I just thought I was really passionate about it. The reason I wanted to do international studies because I want to be an ambassador. I want to like work with people and talk with people and stuff. And the reason I want to do statistics was because I had a really good statistics teacher back in high school. I really liked him, Mr. Ray. And then I think the journey of how I discovered CS is I actually really hated CS back in high school. I really disliked it. I took one AP CS class. Absolutely hated it. I did not like doing for loops all day. It was very boring for me.
Do you like it now?
I like it a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I took a CS class here at UW with Brett Worsman.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have some of the best introduction professors in the CS school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Brett is absolutely phenomenal with his teaching skill and like the teaching style and stuff. Like, I fell in love with that class. I fell in love with CS after that class.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, it's just the feeling of hands-on experience of building something from the ground up, and then just seeing it work after you spend like hours on it. It's so much better than just writing for loop and seeing them being printed out, you know?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I was in the same shoes.
Oh, really?
I really enjoy building a product that just works.
Yeah.
Like brick by brick.
Yeah.
Like I will probably just like you. I spend hours in front of screen coding,
Yeah.
debugging, testing. Eventually, when it finally worked, that was
Yeah.
like, yes, you know that feeling, that
The feeling of
that
accomplishment.
fulfilling feeling,
Yeah.
that exhilaration,
Yeah.
is very rewarding.
That is something I don't think you get in a lot of like. Maybe people get a different hit in humanities because I can personally understand. I guess like maybe when you're writing poetry, there's a beauty to it as well. I think I have not found that like anywhere else
People
yet.
have different areas that they're passionate about.
Definitely.
I'm just so glad that
Yeah.
you eventually ended up with the one that you are so excited and passionate and you like.
Definitely, yeah. I think there definitely been times where I was a little rough and like, do I even still want to continue doing CS? But then like after a while, you code a little more. You're like, oh, this works. All right, I like CS still.
It is so important. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want statistics, you can even sway your CS
Yeah.
in that direction.
Into that direction, yeah. And the funny thing is, like, I actually took a statistics class the quarter after I took my CS class. So I was still thinking about doing statistics. I took one day of it, I dropped it, and I was like, I don't like this. This is not what I imagined it to be. And then I was just like, time to apply to CS, I guess.
You know, teacher makes a lot of difference.
Teacher makes a lot of difference.
You mentioned the stats teacher that you had.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the CS teacher that you had.
Yeah.
And, you know, having a good teacher really is important for you to discover your hidden passion, so to speak.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. It really sets the course for, like, sometimes the rest of your life and just seeing where you're going to go, right? I think going back to it, right, like, did you always want to be a professor growing up? Was there, like...
No. I did know, like I mentioned earlier, that I didn't know what I really want to do when I was an undergrad student.
Yeah.
And probably like many students today, I was experimenting with different kind of fields. I had a different idea. Sometimes I wanted to be a business person. Sometimes I wanted to be, say, international kind of a study area, like ambassador or maybe representative, expat. Sometimes I want to, play guitar.
yeah.
Maybe when I was in college, I played a lot of guitar.
Yeah.
So there were different kind of areas, and eventually, I guess, fate will take funny turns here and there,
Yeah.
and then put you in the area that you're gonna feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I never thought one day when I was a student that I wanted to be a professor.
Yeah.
But after undergrad, after master degree, after I discovered I'm interested in information systems and got my PhD degree in information systems. So the only natural choice after you get a PhD degree in my field is to be, in academia, to be a professor. So I thought, okay, if that's the only option, then let's go ahead and give it a try. By the way, both my parents are teachers, so that might have something to do with it. So I wasn't against it.
Yeah.
But I say, I kind of have a good idea what it's about, even though I haven't thought about it. About why don't we give it a try? So after giving it a try, I realized, I could be a pretty good teacher.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy watching my students learn, develop, grow, and mature. So it turned out to be a very rewarding career choice for me.
Definitely, yeah. And I can definitely tell your passion when I sit in on two of your lectures. They were really fun. Yeah. They were some of the best lectures I've been in at UW.
Well, thank you so much. I had no idea that, I have auditors coming to my to my class. So how did your friends tell you about the class and they decided to come? Is that what happened?
That is what happened, yeah. I was, I was hanging out with my friend here, and then I was, free that afternoon. I was stuck on a code. I was like, I don't want to code today. I'm stuck here. He invited me. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to an information system class. The prof is really cool. He's really funny. You should come and sit in and listen." And then I was like, "Oh, sure. I mean, I have 3 hours to spend. Might as well go in and listen to the lecture." Went in, and it was the day we were talking about like different marketing strategy. I remember one of the examples you gave in class was the idea of like no product display, but just like a picture of the product, and then like people can scan it and sell it. It was that day, the lecture on that day. And I actually like had a few ideas after the class to be like, oh, maybe we can like use that to like, small creators. We can like let them take a picture of what they're going to create and like sell it on UW or something. Like, I thought it was a really interesting lecture, and I just really enjoyed it. And that's how I sat in with the class. And I was like,
thank you.
I kind of want to do a podcast with Shaosong now because like, a very interesting guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. To clarify, we're talking about a virtual store with no inventory.
That is what it is.
It's cardboard printout of the products, life-size products, and you can just wander around the aisle. If you want to buy, you can take out your phone and scan a barcode, then you buy.
Yeah.
And we're talking about why is this model feasible?
Yeah.
And why do people come to a shop like this? If you want to buy on your phone, you can already buy on your phone, right? Why would you go to a store like that to scan your barcode and then go back home to wait for it to be delivered? So we talked about something like that. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
And do you imagine to build a big repertoire of this podcast with many UW professors and then put it into some kind of a program?
No, I think my idea with this podcast originally was just I kind of want to like share the knowledge of UW professors to like the broader public. And like first it was initially just UW students to see like how, because I have a few friends who was really interested like in conversations like these. So I was like, oh, I'll start something like this. And then later on I thought like the knowledge that we have and the conversation we have today can be just like broadcasted to the broader public and just have them like see resources that normally will not be seen, I guess. And it just like also, I think a lot of the lesson that is taught in life is lost in the classroom. And I think a lot of that has just come from like word-to-word interaction and passing on the knowledge that way. Quite criminal, but is, I think, still very essential. And I think that's kind of like my idea. I didn't really have an end goal in mind when I first started. I wasn't going to be like, I'm going to do every single UW professor. I'm just like, I'll try to get as many professors as I can and just have fun in the way of doing it. Yeah.
Well, let's see where it takes you.
Yeah, let's see where it goes.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
The way that I think about teaching is, I think the best teaching and learning is like individualized learning. You really know who your student is. Your student really know who the professor is.
Yeah.
And then you get to know each other on a personal level, and then you learn from each other. And this kind of a opportunity, this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Will, I'm thinking about from the perspective of a UW student or a college student.
Yeah.
So I get to know my professors at some level by going to the classroom, going to their classes. But it'll be wonderful for me as a student to get to know them on a personal level.
Definitely, yeah.
Who they are, what their hobbies are, how do they end up like, the discussion that we have today.
Yeah.
So that will really help me, right? Whenever I go to the class, I say, this is a real person. This is not like a robot that's programmed to teach on a podium and then leave afterwards.
Yeah.
So this is a real person I'm learning from. And then he has this tremendous wealth of knowledge from his experience. And then, he's willing to share with me. So I'd be happy to. So that's why I say,
Definitely.
this is a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think there are many fantastic faculty members from the community.
Definitely,
They all have great, compelling stories to share. And they're more than eager to share with their students.
Definitely, yeah. We have a star faculty list definitely here. A lot of departments here on campus. And I guess like kind of bringing it back to in a little bit, right? And then kind of going back to like idea of like knowledge sharing that's outside the classroom, right? And you mentioned that back in college you were like really lost about what you're doing, right? And then during that time, was there like a great moment of like hopelessness or anything like that you felt during that time where you're like, I don't know where I'm going?
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah.
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't like really lost. It's like different ideas every month.
Okay.
Or maybe every quarter.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just like, torturing myself by going to classes. No, I still had a lot of fun learning a lot of things. I just didn't see my career.
I see.
Like today I see one thing, and tomorrow I say, maybe it's the other thing, and the day after it could be something different.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not uncommon back in the days for me and my peers. Many of them, probably have the same idea. Some of them will have a better idea than others, but none of them are 100% sure.
Yeah.
And I say, I probably ended up doing this, I probably ended up doing that. And we're in econ degree, and we're concentrating on international trade. So many of us probably want to be, I don't know, a trader, a business person somehow. And what exact business person, we don't quite know. And I guess many of us would just say, just go with the flow to see where job opportunities take me. And this was undergrad in a university in China.
Okay.
And it was always very competitive. In the end, after you graduate, right, it's not like you're looking to find a job that you like. You're just looking for a job.
Yeah.
You just, get whatever that job you can land. So that's part of the reason why many people would just say, you know what, I just go with the flow to see what it takes me, maybe not bothering to think about exactly what they want to do. So anyways, and I could not think of if there is any moment that would define what I am today.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't know what I wanted to do until I was a PhD student. That was many years later.
Yeah.
In information system at USC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the big takeaway is that it's all right. Take some time. Let's see where it goes.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? That's also what I would say.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you want to do, that's all right.
Yeah.
I think a part of the whole idea about college is you get to sample different fields. You get to experiment with the different areas of study. If you can find out the one early on what you want to do, good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But if you cannot, I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
And look around. Eventually, your passion is going to land you in a spot that you feel most comfortable with.
Definitely, yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for the tips. Yeah. I think at this point, right, I think it's a small segue kind of based off that, there definitely you took time to figure out what you liked and stuff like that. Were there any regrets that you would say that you had during those years when you were an undergrad? Is there anything that you feel like if you were to redo it, you would have done better, that you would try to spend more time on?
Small regrets, I think there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the nature of human. Like everybody will have a lot of small regrets.
Yeah.
But I think what you're asking is more about career-defining regrets.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I wish I had, taken a different bus route that gets home a little earlier, right? That's not that kind of regrets.
Yeah.
It's more about, I think you're asking is,
missed opportunities that you feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell you a little more about me.
Yeah.
In college, I was very actively involved with a student organization, with events planning. So I get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I get to participate in a lot of events. I get to organize and plan a lot of events. So that really trained me to, number one, getting to know people, interacting with people, having a organized, careful, meticulous thought about planning things.
Yeah.
That really helped me a lot. I think I learned so much in addition to what I learned in classroom.
Yeah.
But I wasn't one of those study hard student.
Yeah.
I guess one of the regrets is I wish I could have studied harder.
Yeah.
And many of these areas or the courses I was taking back then, I did not see the application value of the course. But many years later, I look back, I completely see that.
Yeah.
I wish, maybe I could have learned their value early on. Maybe I have different teacher telling us why they're important.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did. I just, go fit the right class or something like that.
Yeah.
So some of the classes I wish I could have spend more time to learn more about.
Yeah.
Okay. And other than that, not much.
Okay.
Not much. I mean, I'm happy with where I am today.
Yeah.
So I guess every decision that I've made is probably meant to be.
Yeah.
Study hard.
Yeah.
Don't goof around.
Yeah.
Make those experiences count.
Yeah.
Would be probably my suggestion and my advice.
I see. Definitely. Okay. Yeah, I guess like straighting off a little bit on that tangent, right? I was just talking about this with a friend. I kind of want to get your perspective on it, right? You know, a lot of people have this idea that they say that college is the best years of your life, and you should enjoy and lavish it completely, and then you just go downhill afterwards. Do you agree with that statement? What are your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
I think yes and no. I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's all downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of bright years, enjoyable years, successful years compared to college years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how those years turn out to be. If you look back, your years in college is going to be so unique and so different from everything else you had
Yeah.
that it's going to be always a special spot in your entire life for you.
Yeah.
And for me, I really enjoyed the years I had in college. Like I said, I learned so much.
Yeah.
I became a more complete person.
Yeah.
And I made so many friends. The friendship lasts for the rest of the life. And that really goes a long way.
Yeah.
Make those years count. Don't hate it. I mean, if you hate it,
Yeah.
you're losing the entire point of being in college,
Yeah.
right? Do something. Make sure that you enjoy it. It should be the most enjoyable time of some of the most enjoyable time of your life.
Yeah.
Also, most important one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Love your take on that. Just make it count. I think this seems like to be the big central point for you, your philosophy. Yeah.
There are so many to be learned.
Yeah.
So many things you can do to enjoy life, to learn and improve, to
Yeah.
grow. And I mean, if you are struggling, right, then know there are so many options and help around you, and you can always make those years like better.
Yeah. You seem to be a very optimistic person.
I guess so.
Yeah.
That's probably how I was born with.
I think it's a very positive trait to have.
Did you spend
Especially
any
when
time in
you're-
Xi'an at all?
I did. I spent 13 and a half years there.
I went there.
Yeah.
I visited there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, where are you from originally? From China?
Guilin.
Guilin.
It's a small town in the south.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, me and my family, we all, went there as a tourist. We, went over riding bikes on this on the big
the wall and stuff. Yeah.
And then Terracotta Warrior.
Yeah.
Those are the must visits.
Yeah. Did you eat the
Fascinating town.
Did you eat the
Biang biang noodle.
biang biang noodles and also
Yes.
the
Yes, of course.
meat bread sandwich, 肉夹馍?
Right. Yeah, of course. You have to try those.
You have to eat it. Yeah. Man. Just reminds me of home. There's actually a pretty good noodle place on the Ave that I really like. That I think is pretty authentic. It's really
The taste of Xi'an.
No.
No.
Xi'an noodles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Xi'an noodles.
All the way in the north.
All the way in the north.
Okay, I've been there too.
That one I think is a
Been
lot
there
better
too.
than Xi'an noodles.
Yeah.
Noodles. It's stretchier. It's just juicier. I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, yeah.
So you came here as a middle schooler.
As a eighth grade, that's when I first came over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think for you growing up in Guilin, right? What was it like? What was it like for you? Do you have a lot of friends growing up?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Was it like it's good? It's good. The neighborhood, right? It's kind of like the little Chinese neighborhood.
Yeah, it's very back in the 70s. I grew up I was born in the 70s and 80s. So back in the days, you don't have the technologies that you have. There's no TV, there's no internet, there's no cell phone.
Yeah.
So being a kid is really out there.
Yeah.
To play around, to goof around with other kids.
Yeah.
So it's very different. But it gives you this deep-rooted community that you identify with even years and years after you grow up. So I always look at my hometown, the community that I grew up in, with a special, fond perspective.
Yeah.
It's quite a different from like today's world,
definitely,
so to speak. I feel like today with technology, which is a blessing, but it also kind of isolate people from each other. Like a lot of people spend more and more time on their technology.
For sure.
They never had the kind of environment that when I was a kid that I get to enjoy outside, playing around,
get dirty,
inventing new games. With mud, with stick, with rocks. It's a lot of fun.
Blowing stuff up during Chinese New Year. Just random.
Yes.
Just find a rock, throw in the water, throw in the
firecracker,
throw something in there.
Yeah.
How can I blow that up?
Fight each other with fireworks.
Definitely. That's the thing you do, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that way I'm kind of blessed as well growing up because my mom never allowed me to have too much phone time. She always just told me to go outside and play with the kids. And then I grew up in a neighborhood as well where all the kids are always out. So the first thing I do when I come home, do my homework, then get out there, go play for until 10 o'clock at night. And go across the neighborhood when my mom told me not to go across, sneak past. It's good times. It is good times. Yeah.
It was a very different world.
It is a very different world.
And I'm talking about, 70s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From the last century.
Yeah.
So back then, China was this socialist / communist society, in which is the dichotomy of capitalist society. So we grew up, listening and hearing propaganda like, okay, America is the evil, impurest power of the world, is the root of evils in the world, and so. And look at today. I mean here it's quite a difference here.
Yeah.
And I remember I do a study abroad program with the students a lot, right? One time I remember when we're doing study abroad, when we're having dinner with the students, and at one point in time, one student just asked me point blank, Shaosong, what was it like growing up in communist China?
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised by the question because nobody asked me that question before.
Yeah.
My peers, they grew up with me, so they know exactly what that was like.
Yeah.
So they never bothered to ask. For the other people who didn't grow up with me, they are usually maybe a little intimidated by me. So never bothered to ask me that question.
Yeah.
So that made me think. So I thought about it. I realized my childhood was so different from all their childhoods that I can literally just say anything and that they will make their jaws drop.
Yeah.
I can just name a random thing that we did.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I mentioned that we used to take nuclear survival classes in preparation for a full-out nuclear war with the West.
Wow.
So what if the U.S. nuke us, right? So what do you need to do? So we actually went through the training. Like when there's an explosion, you look away.
Yeah.
You know there's a light, then look away.
Yeah.
And then start running.
Yeah.
The shock wave is going to come, depending upon your distance, in a few seconds.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't come, you start running. But when you feel it is coming, you need to dive down with your feet pointing to the explosion site, with your arms around your ear, protecting your eardrum, and hold your breath for as long as you can. And when the shock wave passes, and that kind of thing. So there's a chemical survival lessons, and
That's so fascinating.
I know. And then the students are like, "What? Really? You took those lessons? My God!" And I'm telling you, it was a realistic possibility when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That the world can delve into a self-destruction like that.
Yeah.
So it's very different. It's very, very different.
It is very different. Wow.
That's probably why that helped me today to really appreciate people's different perspectives.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people, students, maybe colleagues, and I realize, the way they look at the world is very different from the way that I look at the world, possibly because we have very different upbringing, very different childhood.
Yeah.
And I guess one of my strengths is that I read people well.
Yeah.
And then this experience, having experience not only in China in a very different world, but also in America, well, is really helping me to understand people coming from different perspectives, to read them accurately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
fascinating.
They're doing tangents now.
No, that's a good tangent. That's fascinating to me. Like the steps and stuff of covering your eardrum to make sure you don't make it blow up.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of like that kind of thing. So we actually practice those. And then there's like, it was the end of the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
If you know the Cultural Revolution. So things were just weird.
Yeah.
Like the entire country was in the middle of a profound and deep transformation. So, the kids that you play with, the classes you talk to, the adults you interact with, they are all in this critical period of time, transitioning from one to the other and so on. So it was quite different.
Yeah.
Very different. I mean, if you don't think about it, they don't realize it's very different. But my students question, what was it like growing up in communist China really made me think. And as I think about it, I realize, oh my God.
It is quite different.
We are creatures from totally different world.
Yeah.
And fate put us together.
Yeah.
So we learn from each other, which is super cool.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. There's so many like branches I want to go off from what we just said. I think like one of the branch, right, I was going to say is going to be like, do you feel like the aspect of community that is lost through technology these days, do you think, is there any way we can regain it in any way? Or like, because I know like I was talking to a friend about this as well, right? Like he asked me like, what was it like growing up for you? Like, did you play with other kids and stuff? I was like, yeah, I played a lot of kids. And then he was like, yeah, I did too. And then I'm looking at my younger sister nowadays. She's 10, right? And she is not playing with all the other kids playing, like going outside and getting dirty and stuff. And I think she is definitely missing out on that communal experience that like we had growing up. And I was kind of wondering, like, what is your take on that? And do you think, like, how is that going to affect the future youth anyway? Yeah.
I don't think we'll be able to replicate what we experienced as a kid.
Yeah.
With technology, I think, on one hand, you feel like you are a little more isolated on your own bubble. But on the other hand, technology also allows you to expand your connection, but not like a real life physical connection, but technology like a digital connection.
Yeah.
To a much bigger scale. So unlike back in the days, you have such a close and deeper bond with every kid in your community. Nowadays is you have probably a little more superficial bond, but with way more kids.
Yeah.
And they're not from your community, they're from your city, from your state, from your country, from around the world.
Yeah.
So it is a different world. And I mean, as a person who grew up in those kind of world, there's, our world is better. But then, who am I to say that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the kids, after they grow up, and they will look at it and say, our world is, of course, is better.
Yeah.
And you guys are just, ancient antiques. And, and then they're looking at their kids and they say, these people, they're different. So, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say. Definitely, yeah. Just because it's just different from what we experience. I think like we can never fully experience what they experience. We can only empathize and relate, and that's all we can do.
This kind of a conversation, I hope that it will let people know more about the kind of environment, the kind of society many people like me experienced as a kid and grew up as a kid.
Yeah, because I think
not many people know that.
Yeah, I think like people, like you said, overlook. Like even we ourselves overlook like how different it is, even just coming from a different country. Like knowing that we did not grow up watching the same cartoon as them, and then like knowing we didn't grow up like watching the same shows, and like the school system is completely different and stuff like that. Like it is very fascinating bringing that idea out.
Many students actually they mentioned they read about it in school on textbook.
Yeah,
but it's very rare they have somebody who went through that, experienced that.
Yeah,
and then they did, and then you ask them and they're willing to share.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a rare, and that's why I say, don't be afraid to, try to get to know your professors.
Definitely.
You're always going to learn something different.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, thank you for that thought. And I think like another tangent I kind of want to go off of, right? I saw this on your website, and then you talked about fate a little bit. I was kind of curious about like your philosophical view, because on your website you had a quote, "I think, therefore I am" in Latin, and I was kind of curious, like, what prompted you to put on that? Like, was it like were you just like, oh, this is very important to me? Is there like a I guess like a significance to you behind that?
The way that I think about myself is, I'm a member of the academia. I do research, I do teaching. So the thought is really the value-added part for me to bring to the society. And I think, therefore, I am, identify with that because the thought defines your personality, defines the identity of individual. And I feel I'm a unique entity. Like every person is a unique entity because of a number of things, right? Because of their presence, because they have physical capability, but most important of all, because of their philosophical view of the world.
Yeah.
Because of their thoughtfulness, what they can bring to in terms of human knowledge, this paradigm of knowledge that we share with each other, we improve, we learn from that.
Yeah.
So I feel more strongly about this point because I am a member of the university, a member of the academic community, I guess, doing research and doing teaching.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it in there.
I see. Interesting. Okay. And I think this might be a very big question following up with that, right? You mentioned that it seems to me that one of the things that you really value is the paradigm of knowledge that humans have and then passing down and teaching of knowledge. And I think, would you say that to you is the ultimate meaning of life, to like adding on knowledge and like growing it and contributing to it?
That is a big question.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? I think about the question a lot, and I have different time period of time, I have a different answer. I think, does it really mean that you just get to live your life? Does it mean you need to make an impact of the people around you? What about the society as a whole? Do we need everybody to know the meaning of life? You know what? I'm going to have to think more about it. I don't... I think as we're getting older, the way that we look at the world is a little different.
Yeah.
As a younger person, we tend not to think about questions like that a lot.
Yeah.
Just go by day, day, enjoy life. That's all there is. As you are getting older, you start thinking about it, right? What is me?
Yeah.
Who am I? After my passing, what do I leave to the world? Then maybe they will remember me by. Maybe I can change people's lives, hopefully for the better. So you think about it, that you say, well, the contribution you have done. What have you done? What is the legacy? Do you need to document it?
Yeah.
Do you need to share it? Do people need to know about it? Hopefully you can do all of the above.
Yeah.
At the same time, enjoy what you do. Living a good life. Be happy. Positively influence the people around you for the better. So they live a better life.
Yeah.
They're happier. That'll probably be the meaning of life.
I see.
Everybody will have so many different passions they want to pursue.
Yeah.
I hope everybody will get to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And have fun while doing so.
Yeah. I see. Okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate real fast on the idea that you just proposed, right? I think like the following up on that, like why would you say it's good to be happy? Like why is it good to like contribute, I guess, to you? Or is that where
making contribution to, I think, the society, to the people around you. I think that's how the world evolves and gets better.
Yeah.
We don't want the world to evolve and get worse.
Yeah.
And the only way that it will evolve, get better is, well, human beings help each other to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And it is human nature to seek out the opportunity to be happy. I mean, very few people, seek out to be sad.
Yeah.
So that is why I think the driving force to motivate people to do what they really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a system put it all together so people do what they wanted to do and they reinforce each other at the big level, collective level, and we grow and then we improve.
Yeah, I see. Okay, yeah. Thank you for your thoughts on that. Yeah, and I think we're wrapping up to our time at 3 o'clock. I don't want to keep you on for too long. And I guess wrapping it up for our listener tonight or today or whatever time zone they're in, is there any final tips or advice you would give?
I think we kind of cover many of them in our dialogue today.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm thinking about from the perspective you run in the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your audience most likely will be college students.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, as a college student, if I can go back in time and tell myself in college days,
Mm-hmm.
what you should do differently, what you should do, keep in mind to get the most out of these years. I would probably say things like, make sure you learn.
Yeah.
Make sure you find out the area that you are really passionate about, you're really excited about, you're really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Seek out the opportunities to get involved,
Mm-hmm.
get to know other people, join a club,
Mm-hmm.
take a leadership role, organize events,
Mm-hmm.
go participate events, take different classes, be curious about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the process of be curious, fulfilling their curiosity, that will really, really make you a better person, individual, more capable individual, competitive individual in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So really enjoy the years. Don't be shy to reach out
Mm-hmm.
to fellow students, professors, and learn a lot, have fun.
I see. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shaosong. It's been a pleasure today.
Of course.
All right.
So if you're listening to this, guys, make sure you like and subscribe.
Thank you for the shout out.
It's a plug.